The hospital's night shift was quiet, until the doors burst open. A man lay bleeding, leather torn, tattoos inked deep into scarred skin. Nurse Claire bent over him, unaware of who he truly was. By dawn, dozens of motorcycles would roar outside, and her act of kindness would change everything. Before we begin, tell us where in the world are you watching this from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Your every comment, gift and membership helps us bring more heart-touching stories to your life. Claire Matthews had grown used to silence on her late shifts. The hospital in Redwood Falls was small, its hallways echoing with the hum of fluorescent lights. She was 32, single, and worn down from a life that gave little back. Nursing was her calling, yet it left her weary. Patients came and went, but most faces blurred into routine. Tonight seemed no different, until the emergency doors slammed open. Paramedics rushed in on a man broken from asphalt, his jeans shredded, leather vest cut by glass. Blood streaked his brow. His body was massive, muscle worn with years, tattoos like maps across his arms. Motorcycle wreck, one medic barked. Lost control on Highway 6. Claire's heart pounded as she steadied the gurney. She'd seen bikers before, loud, rough, intimidating, but something about this man's stillness unsettled her. His eyes, even half shut, seemed to carry storms. She whispered, "You're safe. I've got you." He didn't answer. The trauma room buzzed with urgency. Claire worked alongside the doctor, hands steady despite her racing pulse. They stitched deep cuts, checked for broken ribs, and fought the swelling bruise along his temple. The biker drifted in and out of consciousness, murmuring fragments, names, places, a low growl of pain. Claire leaned close, catching a faint whisper. "Brothers, tell them—" She frowned, unsure what he meant. Hours stretched. By midnight, most of the staff had gone, leaving only the skeleton crew. Claire stayed. She couldn't bring herself to leave his side, though she didn't know why. He wasn't gentle, wasn't small. He was the kind of man who looked built to fight the world. Yet here, under harsh lights, he was fragile, every breath a struggle. When his hand twitched, she held it without thinking. For a moment his eyes cracked open, steel gray, piercing. He looked at her as if memorizing her face. Then darkness took him again. Claire sank into the chair beside his bed, exhaustion pulling at her bones. Through the window, rain streaked the glass, tapping a rhythm against the silence. She studied his vest, folded on a chair. The patch on the back caught her breath. A skull with wings, bold letters stitched above, Hell's Angels. Her pulse quickened. She had heard the stories. Outlaws feared across towns, men who carried reputations like loaded guns. Was that who she had stayed behind for? Fear whispered that she should leave, clock out, let someone else carry this weight. But another voice, quieter, steadier, told her he was still just a man, bleeding, vulnerable, alone. She touched the edge of the patch with trembling fingers, then pulled her hand back. She remembered his eyes opening, the storm inside them. There was something more. She whispered into the stillness, "Who are you really?" The only answer was the steady beeping of his heart monitor. At 2 a.m, Claire rose to adjust his IV. The hospital felt like a ghost town. Hallways empty, vending machines humming. As she checked his vitals, she noticed his hand shift. His eyes flickered open again, more aware this time. "Where am I?" he rasped. "Redwood Falls Hospital," Claire replied softly. "You had an accident. You're safe." His gaze drifted, then returned to her. "Safe?" His lips curved bitterly. "Never safe." He tried to sit up, wincing. Claire pressed him back gently. "You need rest." He studied her face, as if deciding whether to trust her. Finally, he whispered, "Name's Logan." His voice was gravel but steady. Claire nodded. "I'm Claire." For a long moment neither spoke. Then Logan's eyes grew heavy, his breathing evening out. Claire returned to her chair, the name repeating in her mind. Logan. It carried weight like the man himself, rough, scarred, but unbroken. She didn't know why it mattered, but it did. The night dragged on. Claire kept vigil, checking his bandages, wiping sweat from his forehead. She should have gone home hours ago. Her shift was done, but something kept her rooted. Maybe it was the way he seemed to fight invisible battles even in his sleep. Or maybe it was how, beneath the scars, she saw a man carrying too much weight alone. Around 4 a.m., the quiet shattered. The rumble started faint, then grew. Engines. Dozens of them. Claire froze, heart hammering. Through the rain-streaked window, headlights flooded the parking lot. Chrome glinted under street lamps. Motorcycles lined the hospital entrance, one after another, until the lot looked like a gathering storm. Claire whispered to herself, "What is this?" The engines cut, leaving a heavy silence. Figures dismounted, leather jackets, patches identical to Logan's. Claire's breath caught. They weren't just visitors. They were Hell's Angels, and they had come for one of their own. The automatic doors slid open. A wall of leather and steel-toed boots filled the hallway. Nurses froze. Security hesitated, unsure. Claire's pulse raced as the men advanced, their presence a mix of menace and gravity. At the front was a tall man with a scar down his cheek, vest patched Reaper. His gaze swept the room until it landed on her. "Where's Logan?" His voice was calm, but it carried authority like a blade. Claire's throat tightened. "He's stable." "In recovery." Reaper's eyes softened slightly. "You're the one who stayed." She nodded, unsure. He held her gaze a moment longer, then gave a sharp nod to his men. "Nobody lays a hand on her. She's family now." The word stunned her. Family. She barely knew Logan. Yet something in the way they looked at her, respectful, protective, made her realize her choice to stay had changed everything. She wasn't just a nurse anymore. She was part of their circle. Claire led Reaper into Logan's room. The biker stirred, eyes opening to see his brother standing there. Relief flickered across his face. "You came." Reaper clasped his shoulder, rough but tender. "Couldn't leave you lying here alone, brother." Claire stepped back, watching the exchange. She expected hostility, but what she saw was different. Loyalty forged in battles unseen. Reaper turned to her. "He lives because of you." Claire shook her head. "I just did my job." Reaper's gaze didn't waver. "No, you did more. You stayed." Logan's eyes met hers, softer now, gratitude shining through pain. Claire felt her chest tighten. She had always believed her work went unnoticed, that her long nights' sacrifices were invisible. Yet here, in the eyes of outlaws, she was seen. For the first time in years, she felt her worth reflected back. Not just as a nurse, as a person who chose to care when it mattered most. The angels didn't leave. They filled the waiting room, silent sentinels. Nurses whispered, patients stared, but no one dared challenge them. Claire moved through the halls, their presence shadowing her steps. At first she felt fear. This wasn't how hospitals worked. But then she noticed something. They weren't loud or unruly. They respected the space. When an elderly patient dropped a blanket, one of them picked it up gently. When a child peeked around the corner, another offered a shy smile. Claire realized they weren't here to intimidate the hospital. They were here for Logan, and in some strange way for her too. That night she sat by Logan again, the angels keeping watch just beyond the door. Logan's voice was faint but steady. "They call us outlaws. Maybe we are, but when one of us falls, we all stand. You stood too, Claire. That makes you one of us now." His words settled into her heart like truth. Days passed. Logan's body healed, though slowly. Claire visited each shift, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. They talked in fragments, about her childhood in a small town, his years on the road. He spoke of losses too raw to name, brothers buried, mistakes carried like scars. Yet beneath the hardness, she glimpsed a man capable of deep loyalty. One evening she asked quietly, "Why risk so much? Why live this way?" Logan's eyes clouded. "Because when the world turns its back, Brotherhood doesn't. It's all we have." It's all we keep." His voice broke just slightly. Claire reached for his hand. He didn't pull away. Silence filled the space, but it wasn't empty. It was full of understanding, of connection neither expected. Outside, engines rumbled again. His brothers came and went, always watching, always near. And Claire realized she was no longer standing on the outside looking in. She belonged. The day Logan was discharged, the hospital lot filled again. Dozens of motorcycles lined up, chrome shining in the sun. Patients crowded windows, whispering. Claire walked beside Logan as he stepped outside, unsteady but proud. Reaper approached, handing him his vest. Logan slipped it on, wincing slightly, then stood taller. The angels erupted in cheers, engines roaring to life. Claire felt her throat tighten at the sight. She had never seen such unity, such raw celebration of survival. Logan turned to her, eyes steady. "You saved me." Claire shook her head. "No, you saved yourself." But Logan didn't agree. He leaned closer, voice low. "Don't sell yourself short." "You gave me the chance." Reaper stepped forward, pressing something into Claire's hand. A small silver pin shaped like wings. "You may not wear leather, but you're family now." Claire looked at the pin, tears blurring her vision. In that moment, she knew her life had changed forever. Claire didn't go home right away. After her shift, she sat in the staff lounge, staring at the silver pin in her palm. It caught the fluorescent light shining quietly. She thought of all the nights she had worked overtime, unseen, unthanked. And yet these men, feared by so many, had honored her more deeply than anyone ever had. The next day she returned to find Logan sitting up, his brothers gathered around. He grinned when he saw her, a rare softness breaking his hardened face. "Look who kept me alive," he teased. The others chuckled, respectful. Claire blushed, unused to the attention. Reaper lifted his chin toward her. "When you stood by him, you stood by all of us. That means something." For the first time in years, Claire didn't feel small, overlooked, or replaceable. She felt like her care had carved a mark in lives that carried scars deeper than hers. And that meant everything. But peace never lasted long. A week later, whispers filled the hospital halls. A group of men, not bikers but strangers, had been seen lingering near the lot, watching. Logan stiffened when he heard. His past had enemies, debts unpaid, grudges waiting. That night Claire walked him to his room after a test. "Are you in danger?" she asked softly. Logan didn't lie. "Always." Her heart clenched. She wanted to step back, keep distance. But instead she stepped closer. "Then you're not facing it alone." He looked at her, surprised. "Why, you don't owe me anything." Claire shook her head. "I don't stay because I owe. I stay because I choose." The word startled even her. Logan's hand brushed hers, rough and hesitant. For a man used to carrying weight alone, her choice meant more than protection. It meant he wasn't unworthy of care. And for Claire it meant she had found something worth standing beside. Tension thickened when one of the strangers confronted Logan outside during a smoke break. Claire saw it unfold from the window. A tall man in plain clothes, jaw sharp with anger, stepped forward. Words were exchanged, sharp and low. Logan didn't flinch, but his fist clenched. Then, like thunder, the angels appeared. 3, then 5, then more, forming a wall between Logan and the stranger. Engines revved as bikes pulled closer. The man backed away, cursing under his breath. Claire exhaled only when Logan returned inside, his brothers flanking him. Later, she asked quietly, "What do they want?" He shrugged, eyes dark. "Old enemies don't like seeing you stand back up." She thought of how fragile he'd looked that first night, broken, bleeding. And now he was standing tall again. Not because he healed alone, but because he was never abandoned. Claire realized that's what scared his enemies most. Not the man himself, but the Brotherhood behind him. As Logan grew stronger, he started walking the halls with Claire at his side. Patients whispered, nurses watched in awe. The outlaw and the nurse, two worlds colliding, yet walking together like it made sense. One afternoon, a child tugged at Claire's scrubs, pointing at Logan's tattoos. "Does it hurt?" the boy asked shyly. Logan crouched, his voice gentle. "Not as much as falling off a bike, kid," the boy giggled. Claire watched, her chest swelling with warmth. The man others feared carried kindness in moments no one expected. That evening she asked him, "Do you regret this life?" Logan was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Regret? Maybe, but I don't regret loyalty. I don't regret brotherhood, and now, I don't regret you staying." His words sank deep, heavier than she expected. She didn't know if she belonged in his world, but she knew she didn't want to walk away from it either. Discharge day came again, this time for good. The angels lined the lot, engines growling like a hymn. Claire walked Logan to the doors, her hand brushing his arm. "You'll ride again?" she asked. He smirked faintly. "Soon enough." Reaper approached, nodding to her. "You ever need us, you call." He handed her a card, nothing more than a phone number inked in bold. No names, no promises, just trust. Logan leaned close. "You gave me life again, Claire. Don't forget that." Her throat tightened. "Just don't waste it." He touched the pin on her scrub pocket, eyes steady. "Neither should you." With that, he walked into the sunlight, leather vest back on, engines roaring as his brothers closed around him. Claire stood watching until the last taillight vanished. For the first time in years, she didn't feel left behind. She felt like she had been carried forward too. Life returned to its rhythm, but Claire was different. She walked the halls with new strength, shoulders no longer hunched from invisibility. Her co-workers noticed. Patients noticed. She wasn't just the nurse who stayed late. She was the one who mattered. Yet at night, when rain tapped her windows, she thought of engines. She thought of Logan's scarred face breaking into a smile, of the weight of his hand in hers. Weeks passed without contact. Then one evening she heard it, the faint rumble of motorcycles outside her apartment. She stepped to the balcony. Down below, a line of bikes idled, headlights glowing. Logan looked up, helmet in hand, eyes meeting hers. No words were needed. He had come back not as a patient, but as a man, and in that moment she realized she had been waiting all along. They began meeting outside hospital walls. Coffee shops. Quiet roads along the river. Logan wasn't polished, wasn't easy, but he was honest. He spoke of his losses, brothers gone, mistakes that scarred, and Claire spoke of her loneliness, her years of giving without receiving. They didn't fix each other, but they filled the silence. One night he asked softly, "Why me?" She smiled faintly. "Because you don't hide who you are, and because when you looked at me, you saw me. Not just the nurse, me." Logan's jaw tightened, emotion flickering across his hardened face. For a man used to armor, her words cut through. He reached across the table, rough hand covering hers. In that moment, Claire knew this wasn't a story of a nurse saving a biker. It was a story of two people finding refuge in each other, unexpected, imperfect, but real. And that was more than enough. Months passed. Logan healed, riding again with his brothers. Claire continued her work, stronger than ever. Yet their worlds overlapped in ways neither expected. When the Angels held a charity run for a children's hospital, Claire joined, handing out water, her smile brighter than the chrome around her. Families stared, unsure, until they saw laughter, saw kindness woven through leather and steel. Claire watched Logan kneel to tie a child's shoelace, tattoos peeking under his sleeve. The contrast struck her. A man feared by many, yet tender in small, unseen ways. That night, as engines roared into the distance, Logan whispered to her, "We live rough. But you remind me there's softness worth fighting for." Claire rested her head on his shoulder. For the first time, she didn't see their differences as walls. She saw them as bridges. And on those bridges, they were building something neither had expected. Hope. One autumn evening, Claire finished her shift to find Logan waiting outside, leaning against his bike. Leaves swirled in the wind, streetlights glowing amber. He handed her a helmet. "Ride?" he asked. She hesitated, then slipped it on. The wind whipped her hair as they sped through open roads, engines thunder rolling under the stars. Claire clutched his waist, laughter breaking free. They stopped at a hill overlooking the town. Logan cut the engine, silence wrapping them. "Claire," he said quietly, "you changed me. I don't say that lightly." She turned to him, eyes shining. "And you reminded me I matter." "I'd forgotten." He touched her cheek, rough thumb tracing gently. For a man built of scars and storms, his touch was reverent. They didn't kiss right away. They just sat breathing, two souls who had found a home in each other's presence. Sometimes that was enough. Years later, Claire would still wear the silver pin tucked into her bag, polished by time. She and Logan built a life between two worlds, hers of healing, his of brotherhood. They weren't perfect, but they were true. People whispered, judged, wondered, but they didn't need approval. They had chosen each other in the quiet of a hospital night, when one stayed and one survived. Claire often remembered that first dawn, when engines filled the lot, and she realized kindness could ripple wider than she ever imagined. Looking back, she knew the truth. Sometimes the smallest choice, staying one more hour, could change a life forever. And sometimes an outlaw carried the purest loyalty. As for Logan, he always said the same thing whenever anyone asked how he survived. "A nurse stayed late, and because of her I'm still here." If this story touched your heart, remember, one act of care can change a life forever. If you believe in courage, loyalty, and love found in unexpected places, please like this video, subscribe, and press the bell icon so you never miss the stories we bring to life.